Hey everyone, Jennifer Lee Chan here from NBC Sports Bay Area. Just got home after spending the day in San Jose with Fred Warner at his pro camps. And just a little insight on me. I really got my start covering pro camps. So always people ask me, hey, how did you get into this job? How did I want your job. How did you get there? And it was a lot of work during the off season. I would travel to wherever Pro Camps was putting on a camp. I got to know the owners of the organization. And during the off season, players are more relaxed. There's no pressure. A lot of times guys will be willing to talk to you. And because I made friends with Pro Camps and I wasn't trying to get anything from them, I wasn't trying to like get merchandise or get autographs. I just really wanted to cover the players and build the relationship. I would go with the player from group to group, and there were 250, maybe more than that, kids at this camp at St. Francis High School in Mountain View. And Fred Warner made sure to go to each small group of kids, and whether it was racing, throwing passes, defensive drills, playing quarterback, whatever it was, high-fiving kids on what their plays that they were making. He made sure to have contact with almost every single kid, and maybe it was every single kid, but I mean, he really went from group to group and had a lot of contact. He kind of remembers or kind of called back to when he was a kid and going to camps himself, and his mom took him to all the camps, and they were trying to figure out ways to get him to be able to earn a scholarship. And so the first thing Fred did when he started talking to the whole group was, hey, thank you to all the parents' kids. You need to thank your parents because they got you here. It's their money, their time. They brought you here so you could come out and, be your best and learn from, being with all these coaches. Thank you to the coaches and staff. I mean, Fred is just uh such a good human being, and you get to see it when they're in these groups, with lots of people around. And so going back to, I covered all these pro camps. I covered Patrick Willis several times doing his pro camp, Navarro Bowman, Colin Kaepernick. I went to Philip Rivers camp. I went to camp with Drew Brees. It was like a quarterbacks camp. Drew Brees, Jeff Garcia, Carson Palmer. Um, so Reggie Bush. So just going to all these, you can get your foot in the door. I was actually the only media member there, which is shocking to me. After Brock Purdy's mega announcement, or not his announcement, but the announcement that he signed his mega contract on Friday, not one media person other than me was at Fred Warner's camp, which is crazy. So the good thing is that I got to speak to Fred one on one, got to ask him a lot of questions, and I'll kind of summarize what he said to me. Now I'm going to put the full interview on 49ers Talk, so I might post a little bit of it here in a little bit, but I'll just kind of summarize a little bit of what he said. I did ask him about, hey, Brock Purdy got his deal. How excited are you for him? And he said, yeah, Brock is that guy. And he said, yes, of course, he showed up for OTAs, just he's made of the right stuff. He's happy for him. And really, it is the beginning of his journey. So Fred Warner was obviously very happy to have that done. George Kittle's contract's done. There's no holdouts, completely, drama-free, fresh slate for the 49ers this coming offseason. And I said, hey, is it so much different than last year? And he said, part of it is it's great because we can just focus on ball right now. Now I know that he's potentially coming up on a contract extension, could be next year, but they could get it done early. He did say, hey, I love that we're getting things done early so we can focus on the ball. And I think that kind of indicates, trickle down from Fred Warner, from George Kittle, from Brock Purdy showing up for OTAs during the offseason. Everybody's there. He said the energy's been really good and that he's liked the fact that they can just focus on football. I asked him, about being more rested, about it being a longer off season. He said too rested. He's like, I'm just kidding. But he's happy to spend more time with his family, with his wife and his son, Sydney and Bo. They were also at the pro camp, and he was little Bo. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. He's apparently 99 percentile size and weight. Just a cute little boy running around catching footballs. Well, not totally catching footballs, but grabbing them and kind of rolling them and stuff. Just so cute. So good to see them as a family at this event. I also asked him, I was like, is this an emotional reset? Because, after last year, going into training camp, short off season, heartbreaking loss in the Super Bowl, you know, did you guys have to emotionally reset coming into this season? And he said, you know what? Every year is an emotional reset. And it's just, maybe for a different reason, whether it's not making the playoffs like last year or losing the Super Bowl the year before that. So it always is an emotional reset. It's always a new team that comes in every year. Yes, there's a lot of the same core players like Fred, George, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Deommodore Lenoir. There's so many different guys. Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy, of course, Jawan Jennings. These core guys are still there, but it is always a reset. And he said, really, this younger group of players that are coming in are going to kind of invigorate the guys that are there, and it's going to bring some energy. And he said he's already noticed it, he's felt it, he's really enjoyed it so far. Um, he said this youth is going to be crucial for what we have to do. And he's got to get them in there, ready to go, and they're not going to take anything lightly. So I asked him also about the defensive line. And he said, hey, they seem hungry, they seem healthy, they seem ready. And I said, George Kittle said what he had to say about the rookies was that they were ginormous human beings. He's like, yeah, they're pretty big guys, and we're going to need him. Um, Maybe his most interesting insight was about Nick Martin, linebacker, who is obviously a rookie. And the only jersey that Nick Martin has of a player that's in the NFL is Fred Warner's. Fred Warner said he was shocked at how much Nick Martin was squatting in the weight room. I asked him how much. He said, I'm not sure, but it was a lot. So I'll have to ask Nick Martin during OTAs how much he was squatting to impress Fred Warner because he was impressed. But he said, hey, Nick Martin's acting like a sponge. He is, paying attention, asking a lot of questions, but it depends. What happens when the pads go on? He moves great, he said. Fred said Nick Martin moves great. He's really paying attention, great energy, but once they get the pads on, that's when you can really tell where guys are. Um, the last thing I asked Fred Warner was, talked about the schedule, of course. And I said, hey, you guys aren't playing any team coming off a bye. And he said, you know what? Yes, a lot of people have said we have a favorable schedule. And that is something that a lot of people look at. He's like, honestly, it's game by game, it's week by week, and you can't take anything lightly. But he's looking forward to getting out there, resetting everything, having those young players kind of take over and have that competition. You know, Fred Warner is one of those guys in training camp that just doesn't stop. He, gets under the skin of young players. And I don't know if he will this year under Ricky Pearsall. They kind of didn't do that last year because Ricky was out for a number of reasons. But it's about those guys like Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowan competing, and then younger guys like the defensive linemen earning those spots. So it sounds like Fred Warner is excited about the year to come. They're excited about getting into OTAs, and in a couple weeks we'll see them on the field. So at the end of May, we've got another week and a half or so. We'll get to see the 49ers 2025 edition on the field and working at OTAs. So they'll have three different OTAs and then mandatory minicamp. We'll see a little bit of field work there. And then it's a break. It's a 6-week break until training camp. So we'll get a little peek at the rookies and give you updates on everything going on. I know I said I was going to do a little background deal on each rookie, but we had the Brock Purdy deal, and then I had Fred Warner's camp. I wasn't sure whether I was going to go, but then when the Brock Purdy news broke, I'm like, well, now I have to go talk to Fred Warner and get his opinion. It's getting dark in here. I probably should turn on a light. Anyways, I'm going to end this soon because the sun's going down. But um, you know, excited to see Fred Warner's energy and thought process and belief about the season. And I think everybody should be thinking positive and be excited along with him because he really is, along with George Kittle and a lot of those other veterans, a true sense of the heartbeat of the team. So had fun talking to him. I'll post a few clips. I also posted some clips of him on the field working with some of the kids and, just good stuff because Fred's good people. Also next week, Wednesday, if you haven't bought your tickets already, it is the Dwight Clark Legacy event. It's Wednesday in San Jose at the Hammer Theater. Price of the tickets goes to the Golden Heart Fund, which helps take care of 49ers alumni. Definitely go. Fred Warner is going to be there. He told me he's going to be there. He's going to be up there with Michael Zagaris, who is the famed 49ers photographer. Deommodore Lenoir won the Dwight Clark Award. So a little bit on that. So check that out. I'll be there on Wednesday. I'll be doing introductions of all the players and alumni there. So check it out. I'll meet you, say hi, and that's Wednesday the 21st in San Jose. Get your tickets now, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.